The dead walk. The world is at an end, but the end is only the beginning. This is Becoming Undead, the audio series.
Hey, I don't know exactly who's listening to this or why I am wasting my precious resources to record it. But my name is Scott Kaufman, and I feel like there has to be a record of something, if the world gets its shit back together. So here we go. Um, do you remember waiting in line for an iced coffee? Just to kind of get you through the day while you sit in your cubicle. Then you dive through that giant stack of paperwork that your boss left you, and then everything starts to just kind of blend together. Yeah, and then after that, it's off to lunch where you eat the same thing that you've had day after day after day. And then the whistle blows and you go back to your desk and you finish the day. And then you head home to warm up that TV dinner and you watch mindless sitcoms. And I mean, now that the dead are walking, how are things really any different? I think it's been weeks since things really went all upside down. Maybe. I know my beard is a little thicker and the trees are a little fuller with leaves and the temperatures have risen. And with that comes like the humidity that the Midwest is known for. I've never missed air conditioning as much as I do now. You really want to open a window and kind of let in that nice summer breeze. But instead of that, you get the foul stench of death. There was all sorts of bullshit on the news about how this was a hoax by one party to steal the election, the usual garbage. Playing politics with people's lives. Gotta love it. I mean, I suppose it's human nature to deny the darkness. If it's not real, it can't hurt you, right? I was one of those people, and I was. But that's until I saw Jake the Paperboy. I mean, we didn't usually see him, but we knew about him on the off chance there was like a delay at the printer or the weather was real bad. I mean, he was a good, sweet kid. But it was extra weird when I saw him shambling down the street, kind of carrying his bag. Not so much carrying as dragging it behind him. And then for some odd reason, he just stopped in front of old man Detterman's house and starting to kind of stare at it. Like there was something inside that he wanted. Now, there's something you should know about old man Detterman. He is 100% that old man. Or he was. He was the get off my lawn variety. A lot like the character in that movie. You know the one. I don't remember the name, but you know what I'm talking about. He saw Jake standing there, and he was all slack jaw, looking at his house. So out the front door he stormed in his bathrobe, slippers, and underwear. And he was swinging a broom. He just yelled at him for a few minutes, and when there was no response, Detterman took a swing. He swung the broom, and Jake didn't even try to move. The broom connected with Jake's head, knocking him to the ground, and when old man Detterman realized what he did, he started to panic. He looked around, and he went to dart towards the front door of his house, but he didn't make it. Jake reached out and grabbed his leg and took a huge bite out of his calf. Blood went everywhere. Now, for the record, I can handle a good bloody movie. But the real thing, and that amount of it, I couldn't help but lose it. Listen, there's a lot more to talk about, and if I get around to it, I'll make more of these, but I gotta go. Melinda needs my help, and there is a ton to say about her. Sorry it's been so long. Melinda spotted a couple of them in the street, and when you see a couple, that means more are on the way. So we had to extinguish all the lanterns and turn off anything that made any noise and hunker down until they all went out of earshot. It really only takes one to ruin your party. After we were sure that they were gone, I made a run for the local shop. It's not like the old days where you could just hop in the car and zoom down the street. No, now it was a whole ordeal. You just had to walk quick and quiet and hope you didn't step on debris that was left in their wake. You also had to worry that the light from the fire that was Old Man Detterman's place didn't attract them. It was a constant orange and red hue. Once I got back with more batteries and a ton of canned spaghetti and ravioli, you know the kind. We ate and we held each other like we hadn't seen each other for a month, when in actuality it was only really about 12 hours. In this world, though, 12 hours is a lifetime. I said I'd talk more about my sweet Melinda later, and the way things go, there may not be a later, so now's as good a time as any. Either the dead will get us, or the canned pasta will. And I'll tell you what these meatballs are made of. She really is the only thing keeping my head above it all. I remember when I saw her across that crowded outdoor cafe, it was like everyone else froze and went black and white. There was some kind of almost heavenly glow making her stand out from the crowd. I did everything I could to get behind her in line. I was always the shy guy growing up, but around her, that all went away. Our conversation felt like it went on for hours, but in reality, it was just a few minutes. But I knew she was the one on our second date. We were driving to dinner, and a tire blew when we were on a more of a desolate road. And at first, she thought it was a ploy to get up her sundress, and I'm not that shrewd. And once she figured out that I'm not that bright, she didn't even tell me to call the people that get paid to fix it. She sprung to life and changed the tire. It was all it took. She's everything that I'm not. And throughout those early days when humanity still decided to ignore the problem, she stocked up. Canned food, water, all sorts of extra, stuff that we would store in the garage, like wood, things like that. My neighbor, Pat, got really inquisitive, and I had to feed him a line about turning the garage into a workshop. Never even used a regular hammer, let alone a circular saw. He bought it, though. He had a friend over one time, I think his name was Fred or Felix or something, and I saw him point at me, and in the loudest whisper I've ever heard said, "Is that him?" All the neighborhood chatter aside, we were ready for anything, it felt like. So when everything was falling apart, we were huddled up as the newscaster told us about the end, with nothing but the TV illuminating us. We heard the beep from the emergency broadcast system, and we all got the alerts on our phones, and we could kind of hear an echo of everybody else who was still around, or maybe just their body was still around, their phones going off too. We slowly went up the staircase and started taking sledgehammers to the stairs behind us, having moved everything we would need upstairs. We stood at the window, watching the end of the world. We were holding each other. I like to think that I was holding her and protecting her, but ultimately she was protecting me. I come up here on the roof to use the binoculars to check the perimeter. Don't I sound like a military guy now? But I also come up here to record these. I don't want her to see me get emotional talking into an old tape recorder with a cassette tape. Such an odd thing to worry about when rotting flesh is up and walking around. Well, talk to you soon.
This is Channel 32 News. I'm David Gray. It has been an honor to bring you the news for the last 10 years. When I first moved here, I didn't know anyone, and the community embraced this outsider like I was one of your own. Given the situation we have all found ourselves in, I hope that you are watching this from a rescue station, surrounded by other survivors and National Guardsmen and women. If we all survive, and this world gets back to normal, I hope to be right here, back behind this desk, bringing you the news. In just a few moments, we will be handing over control of this broadcast to the Emergency Alert System. But before we do that, I want to say, please hold your loved ones close, never give up hope, and do what you can to survive. We have to survive.
Oh boy, I know I need to record more of these. I mean, not if not for history, like, for my own well-being. I mean, it's not like I can just, make an appointment with my therapist anymore. I gotta conserve resources though, so making these, it isn't exactly the top of my list of things to do. I have to fight those emotions back. In the old world, weird way to put it, I went out of my way to avoid any kind of fighting. I made sure that I didn't stick out at school, so none of the bullies would, get a whiff of me. I mean, hell, at one point I was at one of those huge chain pharmacies, the ones where you're ultimately a number. Who can't remember your face and you don't matter. Well, no matter. There was a group of punks harassing an older fella, and I could have stepped in and tried to put a stop to it. But what if? What if something bad had happened to me? And I know that's selfish, but I was just too afraid. And I can't be afraid now. There is just too much dependent on me. And I know I'm not the strongest guy. And sometimes my emotions get the better of me. But for me now, I have something far more important than myself to fight for. Not just Melinda, but my kid. Yeah, Melinda is pregnant. In a world full of death, my wife is bringing life. It's surreal. As far as I can tell, I'm recording this on July 4th, which is fitting if you really think about it. It's supposed to be Independence Day. If things were, right, we'd be at the beach, grilling out, waiting for fireworks, celebrating the holiday the way the founders intended. Drunk with high explosives. But, now I see the day as a day of hope. Hope for the future. With all this death, there's life. And as much as I love Melinda, I love her that much more. There's just something different about everything, that heavenly glow about her is even brighter. And I think that no matter what happens, as cliche as this sounds, life is just going to go on. Long after Melinda and I are gone, all this death and all this suffering and all this uncertainty, it's just going to be seen as a speed bump for humanity. And as bad as things are, I'm going to do whatever I can, to help this go as smoothly as possible for her and for my kid. I'm not going to say what I hope it is, but I'll do the politically correct thing and say I just hope it's healthy. Looking out down there, they're pretty spread out down there, so maybe I got a good chance to, go to a pharmacy or something and get some of that prenatal stuff. I'm not exactly sure what to get. I'll have Melinda make a list. She'll know. Never thought I'd ever have a grocery list again. That's kind of weird to think about. Do you think she'd be mad if I forget the eggs? Well, talk soon, everybody. Almost 2 months. It's shocking how much can change in what used to be such a short amount of time. Melinda, she wanted to go to the pharmacy because she said that I would just end up getting the wrong thing. And at the end of the day, I don't blame her. It's her body. I can't decide what's best for her. Luckily, though, it's still early in the pregnancy, and she was able to get around pretty damn easy. We've been saving fireworks for when we need to get away quick. I think I saw it in a movie. Thought it might distract them. The only problem was lighting them. It was tough without matches or a lighter, and heaven knows you can't light a Roman candle with 2 sticks rubbing together. So I improvised. I went digging around in the attic, and I found one of those, I guess, what's it called? It's not a catapult. It's more of it's a slingshot. You know what I'm talking about. And we used to put water balloons in it and throw them at each other during the summer when it was hot out. So I rigged it up on the roof, and when we were ready to leave, I took a handful of fireworks, loaded it up, and shot it at Old Man Detterman's house fire. You'd think his house was made of tires. It's still going. And at first, there was nothing. It felt like we couldn't get out, and then it happened. One by one, they started to go off, and one by one, they started walking towards it. But they didn't. They were far enough away not to get too close to the fire. But that's the out that we needed. We climbed down and made our way through the backyards and on our way to the pharmacy. We stopped for a moment and looked at the road. It was full of devastation. Overturned cars, small fires, and bodies littered all over, dead from devouring or just decomposed from time. Bones everywhere. We stood there next to one another and our hands connected. As long as we had one another, nothing could stop us. We finally made it to the pharmacy, and against better judgment, we split up. She went and got the prenatal stuff, and I loaded up on general antibiotics and pain meds. Can't have too much of that lying around, I suppose. I walked from behind the counter and was looking at the toys. I don't know when I could get out and get something again, so no time like the present. I was standing there choosing between teddy bears when I heard a scream and a crash. I dropped the bears and ran to the noise, and Melinda was on the floor with one of them on top of her.
I ripped it off of her and went to bash its head in, but she had beaten me to it. Always a strong one. I helped her up, and she dusted herself off. I helped her collect the meds, and we took off for home. That was 4 days ago. Now she's sick with fever, and she's lethargic. Antibiotics aren't working, or aren't working fast as they should. And I don't know what the hell to do.
I'm sorry, Scott. I am so sorry, Scott. I really wish it hadn't come to this, but it's not something that antibiotics can fix. Remember the pharmacy? I didn't get bitten, but when I laid there after, I, killed it for the second time. I thought I was okay, but blood dripped from its head into my mouth. That's why I didn't start to change like everyone else. It's gotta be. It was way slower, but the minute it hit my mouth, I could tell. I could feel the changing, even little by little. I don't want you to see me change. I know you too well. When the time comes, doing what needs to be done will be too much for you with everything that's going to go through your head. You won't be able to forget about us, about the baby. God, I haven't even thought about the baby. We had such high hopes for the future, despite everything. Now the spark is gone. I am so sorry. I'm looking at you lying there, and I wish so much that things could be different, but they can't. When you wake up and hear this, I will be long gone. And it's really for the best. I know it'll be hard, but you'll need to forget about me. You can't let me and what's happening to me eat at you. Goodbye, my love. If I don't go now, I'll never leave.
I cried for days. I couldn't come to grips with the fact that you were gone. Never left the roof either. Seeing that bed that we shared, it wouldn't help things. Everything felt so different without you here. Just knowing that you were here filled me with a sense of strength that I know I don't have now. You shouldn't have just assumed I couldn't do what needed to be done. You had no right to do it. I'm dead inside without you. Any emotion has left, and nothing can fill that void. Once I got my shit together, I loaded up what I could carry and anything I could use as a weapon, and I left the house. I never thought our house could become a tomb, but here we are. I've been walking for weeks, getting scraps just to sustain myself, going to all of our old haunts, hoping I would find you, hope that I could end your suffering. When I do find a chance to rest and close my eyes, all I do is dream of you. Sometimes it's an amazing dream. We're together, kids, a picket fence, hell, even a dog. More often, though, it's a fucking nightmare. You reach out to me almost like you are begging for my help, only to have you ripped away. I'm heading back out. I just can't sit by these old train tracks forever. If I find you, I'm going to end you. Or what's left of what was my sweet Melinda. Well, I found you. And I did what I said I would do. Except for one small thing that I should have seen coming. Why am I so fucking stupid? There you were. Just standing there, almost motionless, with cloudy, dead eyes. I should have taken slow steps towards you until I just dropped everything and ran to you. I stopped just before taking you in. Your mouth covered in some poor fool's blood, and your clothes weren't in much better shape. You raised your head to look at me, and I swear you knew it was me. And when your arms started reaching out, all I could do was hug you. I held you close for a moment before you took a huge chunk out of my fucking neck. All I could do was whisper that I loved you before I pulled out my pocket knife and drove it into your skull. You fell into my arms, and I held you as the blood started pouring out of my neck. I did my best to drag you home where you belong. And we sat together on the couch. You dead, me dying. It felt normal for the first time in a long time. I don't know why I'm recording these. Who's going to hear them? I hope somewhere you're hearing me speak to you, my love. I'll see you soon, my darling.
I'm a sewing machine, everything but what she needs. God, she knows just what I mean. I'm a sewing machine, always stitching things back up, but I'm always looking for that stream. It takes me out under the sun, somewhere where
Becoming Undead has been a RONCO production. Written by Purtee, performed by Purtee, Jason Stevens, and Sallieanne Atkins. Music by Paul Billups. Additional music by Chris Simpson of Mountain Time. Opening narration by Jason Stevens of jasonsvoices.com.